it's always great to see you, and I find every time we get together, I learn a lot from you. Hopefully, you learn a little bit from me as well. But we have a lot of synergies between our companies, and also between the way we've come up in the business, in the real estate world. Tell me a little bit about your background, and as you got into the real estate business and business overall.
For sure, and thank you for having me at one of your discussions. Cool spot, fun conversation to be having. Started off in the real estate industry, developing resorts, and that quickly sparked a passion in me about creating great places. And Live, Work, Learn, Play, which is the company that I am a partner of, started in 2005, and our vision was to go out and create that same vision but in the urban setting. So to start creating urban villages and reviving downtowns and centers and hearts of places.
So you're developers on your own. You also consult and work with third-party developers. And then, of course, municipalities and cities must love you guys because you're really paying a close attention to the downtown core and putting a proper mix together, not just of retail, but retail as it works together with office, amenity, community uses, and whatnot.
Exactly. What we realized was we're never going to be able to do it all ourselves, and there are so many people that are exploring this idea of mixed use, and so how can we help others in certain cases where we may never own anything?
When we talk about urban commercial development these days, really what that means is mixed use. There are few municipalities around the world, and it is a global marketplace, where an urban development does not encompass a mix of varying uses, but it's always mixed use. And I think that what you're doing really plays off exactly that.
Well, the Behar Group understood this for years, and for as long as you've been around, it was always about accommodating the real estate sector by creating these great partnerships and great places. When you look at some of the greatest villages in the world from Europe, and when we did a lot of studying of those markets when we were building resorts for IntraWest, it was really clear that that mix of uses, that concentration of place, happened by circumstance, by necessity, because when people would come from the far out lands to do their shopping, they would all do it in the center of town. Repatriating that idea is really what's happening now. So a lot of the development and the thinking that's going on is people are trying to figure out how to get back to that.
A dream of mine has been to try and bring the concept of the piazza to North America, sort of the outdoor common area, and implement those into mixed-use developments a little bit more. And I don't think that developers need to give up density in order to do that. I think density can be transferred, but it creates a much nicer experience.
The best squares in the world are actually not very large ones. They're very tight, smaller spaces. There may be a series of these squares, but the ultimate piazza, the big square, really fits in with the overall scale of the city or town that you're looking at.
We have a unique opportunity in North America as well, because obviously it's a lot newer than old retail or piazzas or squares in Europe. We want people to walk to their place of work and walk home and create these urban pedestrian-friendly nodes. But the reality in a city like Toronto or other large cities is people do have cars, and you need to park them somewhere.
Easy answer is, well, put parking below grade or put it above grade, but every developer, myself included, would say, well, what is the math on that? The economics have to make sense for all of these developments, and understanding how the pieces fit together to make the place really work is key. Car is always going to exist, so it's about giving people what they need, what they want, and what they can really enjoy in the right doses.
The Canary District, very cool, mixed-use development. One of your strategies in terms of the retail attraction is creating categories and then going after those. So rather than, I guess, in traditional brokerage where, a property opportunity might be blasted out to the world and the net is cast really wide, you're saying we've studied and we've learned and we've been scientific about, we know which types of businesses are going to work well here and are going to be successful here, and you're going after those.
Well, Canary District is a really exciting project. It will be the neighborhood that ultimately rests on the east side next to the Distillery District, which is a product of the 2015 Pan Am Games. And it's really exciting because it's going to become a fully blossomed neighborhood of people living there, and of course some great retail. And we've been on the project now for about almost 4 years, 3.5 years, and we're integral in the whole process to figure out what type of retail should go there. And it's a process that we've been doing for over 15 years now called targeted leasing and casting. And it's a specialized approach to honing in on what are the greatest uses that should live in the project based on a real extensive study on what's going on in the market and quite frankly, what would make the best possible place.
And geographically, one of the things I really like about the Canary District is its access to this network of hiking trails and biking trails that I think spans the length of the province, make it more of an attraction. I can see people coming down there from the suburbs, having a coffee or a bite to eat.
Well, that's it. And the nice thing is also it's right next to the distillery, and so we really tried to complement the vision of the Canary District with what the distillery is already doing, so that people can start to look at the east side of downtown Toronto as a place to visit. The locals, which we're focusing on first, will start to adopt it as their heart. And then hopefully we'll get some people that will start wandering over from the west side. And
I think it'll happen. And the other thing that I find pretty neat about the development, any negotiation, in order to be successful, has to work for both parties. And even though you're more on sort of the landlord, developer, advisory side, I know that you're very focused on providing deals to the tenants that you're going to bring in that make sense for the tenants.
And just like the Behar Group, the greatest success with any deal, any transaction, is making sure that both parties feel like they won. But it's not just the deal, it's 5 years after the deal was done. And our greatest focus, once we've spent all this time and attention thinking about what should go where, and then hand selecting those individuals, we need to make sure that they're there for years and years. For us, the economics, it's not only about the retail rents, it's about driving the overall mixed-use development.
A lot of the urban retail or mixed use that we're leasing, if it's 3 stories or less, it's on a demolition clause. So, we're putting a tenant in, but we're telling them at any time we could pull you out of that building because we might redevelop it. It's always gratifying to get a deal done, but when it's an independent business, that's either a startup or a smaller business, and you can help them get established and start to really build their brand so that ultimately they could roll it out elsewhere. That's a really great feeling.
The greatest thing that we're having the ability to do is to have an impact in a place. Whether it was building resorts a decade ago, now urban villages, these places have such an impact on the people.
I was having a conversation with a gentleman in Italy when I was recently there, and we were talking about this piazza dream of mine. And he loved the concept of the piazza. He says we have it all over Europe, but cities were built around the piazzas. He said, you can't do that in North America because, cities are built. Well, our cities are quite young here. I mean, Toronto is, 150, 180 years old, if that, right? So, yes, a big city exists, but if we start to create the right urban environments, planning for the next 500 years, and we create public areas or common space or the right types of mixes, then the city will continue to grow in a different way around those, and nicer communities will be established.
We actually created an internal square, mini piazza, to your point, so that we could actually have two-sided retail and activation with actually a street that could be turned into pedestrian that runs through our site. But that allowed us to create that place on a 5.5 acre block of land.
In terms of your own career path, and you've become an authority on urban development, on mixed-use development, on retail. We've known each other for many years, and I've seen the way you've grown in the industry, and I think it's phenomenal. Aside from your work at Live, Work, Learn, Play, you've also become the chair of the ULI Toronto chapter.
Urban Land Institute is a worldwide organization that has about 32,000 members, and it's all about the stewardship of good land practice and the creation of great real estate.
Well, I've been a member for several years, and I've enjoyed it a lot. I think that the seminars are great, the site tours are very well thought out, and to your point, the ability to leverage off ULI divisions globally is huge.
The only point I'd add for why did I get involved was I wanted to give back to the city.
It's very cool to have a conversation with you here.
It's fun to have this conversation in a place like this because it's what Live, Work, Learn, Play is all about. It's about bringing together places to live, work, learn, and play, but most importantly, focusing on those individuals who are businesses that can thrive and really do their part for community, but really show their stuff. And for me, it's a lot of fun to hang out in spots like this, but when we have projects, to really figure out if there's the right home for them.
Well, we're heading into the holiday season. I want to wish you and your family all the best for the holidays, and I'm hopeful that we can sit down at a dark horse again sometime soon and have another conversation.
Absolutely, thanks. Good to see you.
Likewise.